Denzel Washington is kicked out with punch by the car dealership manager who says, "We don't serve the poor here, get out." What he does next will shock you. The glass doors of Ellison Luxury Motors slid open with a soft hiss as Denzel stepped inside. His presence barely registered at first. A man in faded jeans, boots scuffed to the leather, and a hoodie pulled low over his head didn't exactly fit the clientele profile here. The air smelled faintly of leather and fresh polish, the kind of expensive scent engineered to remind visitors they were standing in a temple of wealth. At the reception desk, a young woman in a crisp blazer glanced up and hesitated. Her name tag read Samantha. She started to greet him but faltered as her eyes drifted down to the frayed hem of his sleeves. Before we get into the story, comment below where you are watching from today. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe. "Good afternoon, sir," she said carefully. "How may I help you?" Denzel didn't respond right away. He looked around slowly, taking in the rows of sleek, gleaming cars on the showroom floor. Each vehicle was perfectly lit under soft spotlights, their chrome accents sparkling like jewelry. A Ferrari in candy apple red, a Bentley in deep midnight blue, a Lamborghini with doors spread open like wings. "I'm looking for a car," Denzel said finally. His voice was low, calm, but carried the slightest rasp from years of use. Samantha managed a polite smile. "Of course. Do you know which model you're interested in?" Before he could answer, a booming voice cut through the air. "What's going on here?" Mark Ellison strode over, his Italian loafers clicking against the polished marble tiles. He wore a navy suit so tight it strained at his shoulders, and his hair was slicked back with an almost blinding sheen. His eyes flicked to Denzel and narrowed in instant appraisal. Samantha started to speak. "This gentleman was just—" Mark waved her off without looking at her. "Sir, I think you're in the wrong place." Denzel raised an eyebrow. "I don't think so. This isn't some charity lot," Mark said. "We don't do test drives for fun, and we don't waste time with window shoppers." A few customers had started to glance over. A man in a tailored suit standing by the Maserati smirked. A young couple nearby whispered to each other. Denzel didn't flinch. "I said I'm looking for a car." Mark stepped closer, his face reddening. "Listen, pal, I don't know what scam you're trying to pull, but you're not buying anything here. These cars are worth more than your life." Samantha shifted uncomfortably. "Mark, maybe we should." "Quiet, Sam." His voice cracked like a whip. "Go get me a coffee or something." She froze, then took a step back, her mouth pressed into a thin line. Denzel's gaze followed her for a moment, then returned to Mark. "Is this how you treat all your customers?" Mark sneered. "We don't serve the poor here. Get out before I make you leave." The room went silent. Even the faint music piped through the speakers seemed to stop. Denzel didn't move. He looked Mark up and down with the detached patience of a man cataloging something insignificant. "I'm not leaving." Mark's nostrils flared. "You're testing me?" Denzel's hands stayed loose at his sides. "I just want to buy a car. That's all." The punch came out of nowhere. A hard, ugly swing that caught Denzel square in the chest and sent him stumbling back a step. Gasps rippled through the showroom. Someone dropped their phone. "Get out!" Mark roared, his face twisted in rage. "Before I call the police and have them drag your sorry ass out of here." Denzel straightened slowly, his hoodie falling back to reveal a few strands of silver hair. He inhaled deeply, exhaled. His eyes met Mark's, calm as still water. "All right," he said softly. "I'll go." He turned and walked toward the door. The sound of his boots against the tile echoed louder than Mark's heavy breathing. No one moved. No one spoke. At the door, Denzel paused. For a brief moment, Samantha thought she saw a flicker of something. Steel, maybe fire, behind his calm expression. But then he was gone. The glass doors slid shut with a hiss. The tension in the room broke like a snapped cord. Customers began whispering again. Samantha looked at Mark, her voice shaking. "You shouldn't have done that." Mark rounded on her. "Don't tell me how to run my showroom, Sam. That bum doesn't belong here." Samantha didn't reply, but her fingers itched toward her phone. She had filmed part of the exchange without thinking, her thumb pressing the record button almost on instinct. She didn't know why she kept it running now, but something deep inside her told her this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The silence in Ellison Luxury Motors clung to the air like an unshaken storm. The glass doors had barely finished hissing shut behind the man in the ragged hoodie, yet the echo of his boots seemed to linger. Samantha stood frozen at the reception desk, her fingers still trembling slightly from the adrenaline coursing through her. The calmness in that man's eyes haunted her. It wasn't the look of a defeated man, or even one accustomed to humiliation. It was something else, measured, calculating, like a storm gathering strength beyond the horizon. Mark Ellison, meanwhile, was strutting across the polished floor like a victorious general returning from battle. He adjusted his cufflinks, ran a hand over his slicked hair, and turned to the gawking customers with a smirk. "Sorry you all had to see that, folks," Mark said, his voice loud enough to carry across the room. "We get these types sometimes. Think they can waltz in off the street and touch our cars." A few customers chuckled nervously. Others averted their eyes, uncomfortable with the display but too cautious, or too complicit, to speak up. The young couple who had been admiring the Bentley exchanged a glance. The woman murmured something under her breath, but her partner shook his head slightly, his jaw tight. Samantha finally found her voice. That wasn't necessary, Mark." Mark turned on her with a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Excuse me?" She straightened her shoulders, trying to steady her voice. "You didn't have to hit him. He wasn't being aggressive. He just wanted to ask about a car." Mark's nostrils flared. "Don't tell me how to handle my business, Sam. You're here to greet customers and answer phones, not question my decisions." "That wasn't a decision," Samantha said, her words more daring than she felt. "That was assault." Mark took a step closer, his towering frame casting her in shadow. His voice dropped to a venomous hiss.
"Careful, Sam.
I'd hate for you to forget your place here. You're replaceable." Samantha swallowed hard but didn't look away. For the first time since she started working at Ellison Luxury Motors 2 years ago, she felt something break inside her. The showroom doors opened again, breaking the tense standoff. A man in a tailored suit and designer sunglasses walked in, greeted warmly by Mark. "Ah, Mr. Lawrence. A pleasure as always," Mark said, his voice now dripping with charm. "We just got the latest Porsche in stock. Let me show you personally." As Mark led the man away, Samantha's phone vibrated softly on the desk. She glanced down and noticed the screen still showing the video recording she had taken earlier. Her thumb hovered over the delete button, but she didn't press it. Something deep in her gut urged her to keep it. Out on the showroom floor, a salesman named Curtis leaned over to her and whispered, "You know that's going to blow up, right? You can't treat people like that anymore. Someone probably recorded it." Samantha nodded faintly, her eyes still on the door where the man had left. "I think he knew exactly what he was doing." Curtis frowned. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then pocketed her phone. "I don't know, but I don't think that's the last we've seen of him." In the parking lot a block away, Denzel sat quietly in the back seat of a black SUV. His hoodie was gone, folded neatly on the leather seat beside him. The driver, Tyrell Brown, glanced in the rearview mirror. "You good, D?" Denzel didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on the dealership's glass facade in the distance. "Yeah," he said finally, his voice calm and even. "I'm good. Call Linda. Tell her to meet me here in 30 minutes. And bring Anthony, too." Tyrell's eyebrows shot up. "So it's happening?" Denzel's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. "It's happening." He leaned back in his seat, exhaling slowly. His fingers drummed lightly on the armrest as he spoke more to himself than anyone else. "People always show you who they really are when they think you can't fight back." Back inside the dealership, Mark was holding court in his glass-walled office, laughing boisterously with Mr. Lawrence over a bottle of imported water. "Some folks just don't know their place," Mark said, shaking his head. But don't worry, we keep the riffraff out of here. This is a premium experience for premium customers. Mr. Lawrence nodded, distracted as he scrolled through his phone. Mark's assistant, a timid young man named Ryan, tapped on the door nervously. Sir? You might want to see this." Mark looked up, irritated. "What is it?" Ryan stepped inside and handed him a tablet. A video was playing, the one Samantha had filmed. It was already circulating on social media under the caption, "Manager at Beverly Hills dealership punches man for looking poor." The comments were brutal. Mark's face drained of color. "Shut it down," he snapped. "Call whoever you need to and get that video off the internet." Ryan shifted uneasily. "It's already gone viral, sir. It's been shared thousands of times." Mark slammed his fist on the desk, sending the water bottle toppling. "Then call our PR team. This is the kind of thing that gets people fired. I built this place from the ground up. Nobody's taking it from me." Outside the office, Samantha overheard the outburst. She slipped away quietly, her heart pounding. She didn't know who that man really was, but she had a growing suspicion that Mark Ellison was about to learn the hard way. And it wouldn't be pretty. The black SUV rolled slowly down the boulevard, its tinted windows reflecting the soft golden glow of the afternoon sun. Inside, Denzel sat with an air of absolute stillness, his tailored charcoal suit sharp and immaculate, a stark contrast to the ragged clothes he had worn earlier. He was silent, his fingers pressed lightly together as if holding back the weight of decisions yet to be spoken. Tyrell Brown, his longtime friend and assistant, glanced at him through the rearview mirror. There was no hint of anger on Denzel's face, but Tyrell recognized the quiet intensity in his expression. He had seen it before. This wasn't rage. This was calculation. "You really held back in there, man," Tyrell said cautiously. "I don't know how you didn't knock that clown out right in front of everybody." Denzel's lips twitched in what might have been a shadow of a smile. "Because that's not how you expose rot, Ty. You don't fight fire with fire. You fight it with the truth and a bigger fire." Tyrell gave a short laugh. "I'm guessing you're about to light a damn bonfire then." Denzel didn't reply. He picked up his phone and dialed a number. "Linda," he said when the call connected. "Get Anthony and meet me at Ellison Motors in 20 minutes. Bring the documents. I want them signed and ready." A crisp female voice answered on the other end. "Understood. Should I also bring the press release draft we discussed last month?" "Yes. We may need it sooner than we thought." "Understood." Denzel ended the call and slipped the phone into his breast pocket. He turned his gaze out the window, watching the dealership shrink into the distance behind them. "Man thinks he runs the world because he can sell a few Bentleys and bark at people," Denzel murmured softly, almost to himself. "Let's remind him who really signs the checks." Inside Ellison Luxury Motors, Mark Ellison was pacing his office like a caged animal. His phone buzzed relentlessly with calls from upper management, customers, and now, alarmingly, the press. His assistant Ryan sat perched on the edge of a chair, eyes wide and fingers tapping frantically at a tablet. "Sir, it's on every platform now. Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook. We're trending worldwide," Ryan said nervously. "Trending?" Mark barked, his face flushing crimson. "For what? For throwing out a bum who didn't belong here." Ryan swallowed hard. "For punching a man who turns out to be—" He hesitated, unsure how much to say. "Turns out to be what?" Mark snapped. Ryan's eyes darted away. "Well, people online are saying he looked familiar. A few think he's Denzel Washington." Mark froze. For a moment he didn't speak. Then a sharp laugh escaped his lips. "Denzel Washington? The actor? What the hell would he be doing dressed like a beggar in my dealership?" Ryan shrugged weakly. "I don't know, sir. But you saw his face. Maybe it was him." Mark shook his head vehemently.
No.
"No way. That was some broke nobody trying to scam me. Denzel Washington owns half of Hollywood. Why would he come here looking like that?" Ryan didn't answer. Samantha, standing quietly by the receptionist desk just outside the office, heard every word. Her heart thudded in her chest. If that really was Denzel Washington, if he owned even a fraction of the dealership or its parent company. She couldn't shake the look in his eyes when he had walked out. That wasn't a man retreating. That was a man planning. Exactly 30 minutes later, a convoy of sleek black vehicles pulled into the dealership lot. The first car, a Mercedes Maybach, came to a slow, deliberate stop near the entrance. The driver stepped out swiftly to open the rear door. Denzel emerged, cutting a figure of quiet authority. His presence was electric. He didn't need raised voices or theatrical gestures. His calm alone was enough to make the air feel heavy. Behind him came Linda Parsons, her tailored suit as sharp as her mind, and Anthony Briggs, the corporate executive who oversaw Ellison Motors' parent company. A man accustomed to power, Anthony carried a leather briefcase that seemed heavier with secrets than paperwork. Samantha froze as she watched them stride across the gleaming tiles of the showroom floor. Murmurs rippled among the staff and customers. Is that really Denzel Washington? Someone whispered. Mark, oblivious to the unfolding scene, was still in his office berating Ryan. I don't care how you do it. Take that damn video down. Call the tech team. Call Zuckerberg for all I care. Get it off the internet. Ryan's eyes darted toward the glass wall of the office. He paled. Sir, you might want to look outside. What now? Mark snapped, spinning around. And then he saw him, Denzel Washington, standing in the middle of the showroom floor in a suit worth more than Mark's monthly salary. For a moment, Mark thought his heart had stopped. Denzel's voice carried across the room, steady and deliberate. Mark Ellison. Every head in the dealership turned. The tension was suffocating. Mark stepped out of his office, trying to summon the same swagger he had earlier. Mr. Washington, he said with a forced grin. What an unexpected pleasure. Denzel didn't smile. I've just come to check on my investment. The words hit Mark like a brick to the chest. Your investment? Anthony Briggs stepped forward, flipping open the leather briefcase and producing a stack of documents. As you are clearly unaware, Mr. Ellison, Mr. Washington is the majority shareholder in the parent company that owns this dealership chain. A collective gasp went up from staff and customers alike. Mark's forced grin faltered. His mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Denzel took a step closer, his eyes locking onto Mark's like twin beams of unflinching light. You're done here, Denzel said calmly. The sound of Anthony Briggs' voice still hung in the air like the crack of a whip. The room had fallen into a stunned silence so deep you could hear the faint hum of the showroom's air conditioning. Every pair of eyes was on Denzel Washington as he stood there, calm and unflinching, his presence commanding the entire floor without a single raised word. Mark Ellison felt the blood drain from his face. For the first time in years, the man who strutted these halls like a king felt small, insignificant. This has to be some kind of mistake, Mark said finally, forcing a laugh that came out thin and shaky. You can't just barge in here and start making claims. You think you can come in dressed up, drop some papers on my desk, and I'll roll over? Denzel tilted his head slightly, as if examining a man who hadn't yet realized he was drowning. This isn't a claim, Denzel said, his tone level, but with the weight of finality. This is reality. Anthony cleared his throat and held up the stack of papers higher. These are the ownership documents, signed and notarized, which clearly list Mr. Washington as the majority shareholder in the Ellison Automotive Group's parent company. He has full executive rights to make decisions regarding staff conduct and operations at any branch. Samantha, standing frozen behind the reception desk, felt her breath catch. She clutched her phone tighter in her hand, unable to believe what she was witnessing. A customer whispered nearby, "Is he firing the manager?" Another voice replied in awe, "He owns this place. He can do whatever he wants." Mark's mind raced as he tried to regain control of the room. He forced his shoulders back, his voice growing louder to mask the panic creeping into his gut. Listen, Mr. Washington, I don't know what this is about, but this dealership is my domain. I built its reputation. I made it the best performing branch in the state. You think you can walk in here and take that from me? Denzel took a slow step forward. The air seemed to tighten with every movement. I didn't take anything from you, Mark, Denzel said softly, but there was a dangerous edge beneath his words. You gave it away the moment you decided a man's worth was measured by the shoes on his feet. The color rose back into Mark's face, but this time it was a deep, blotchy red of humiliation and barely contained rage. You think you can humiliate me in front of my staff? Mark barked. You think you can fire me in front of my customers? Denzel's gaze never wavered. You did that all on your own. Anthony interjected crisply. News helicopters circled above Denzel's estate like vultures, their rotors humming ominously as they broadcast live updates. The front gates were barricaded by a growing crowd, supporters waving signs that read, "We believe Evelyn," and "End Hollywood Silence," but also detractors shouting accusations and carrying placards smudged with words like "fame seeker" and "liar." Inside, Evelyn sat on the edge of the sofa, hands resting protectively over her pregnant belly. Her face was pale, her eyes sunken from another sleepless night. The weight of the world pressed in on her small frame as she scrolled through her phone. "They're tearing me apart again," she murmured. On the screen, articles with screaming headlines scrolled past. Evelyn Carter, victim or manipulator? Victor Callahan breaks silence. This is a vicious smear campaign, Denzel Washington's risky gamble. Will it destroy his legacy? Melissa stepped into the room, phone pressed tightly to her ear. "We're running out of time," she said sharply, snapping her fingers to get Denzel's attention. "The studio board is meeting today. They're trying to shut down Phoenix Rising before production even starts. They're calling Denzel a liability to the industry." "They would," Denzel replied calmly, his deep voice cutting through the tension. "They're scared we're actually going to change something." Melissa shook her head. "Scared or not, they're mobilizing fast. If we don't make a stronger move now, they'll bury us with lawsuits and bad press before we get Evelyn's story fully out there." Evelyn looked up, her voice small but steady. "What else can we even do? They control everything. The studios, the press, even the lawyers." "Not everyone," Denzel said. "Victor made enemies on his way up. Some of them are just waiting for the right time to strike." Melissa put her phone on speaker. A voice crackled through. Alex, the former assistant who had supplied damning emails and recordings the night before. "I can't stay quiet anymore," Alex said. "I've seen what Victor does to people like Evelyn. But if I testify, he'll ruin me too." "You're not alone in this," Denzel assured them. "If you come forward, we can protect you." Alex hesitated. "Victor has more on his side than you realize. Judges, reporters, even cops. If he feels the walls closing in, he won't go down without a fight. Then we tighten the walls faster than he can tear them down," Denzel said. Melissa leaned forward. "What about the others?" "There are more," Alex confirmed. "Actresses, assistants, interns, women who signed NDAs and were paid off to stay silent. But most of them are too scared to speak." "Find the ones who aren't," Denzel said. "We need numbers on our side." As Melissa coordinated with Alex, Evelyn stood and began pacing the room. "They'll do to those women what they did to me," she said bitterly. "Twist their words, shame them, call them liars until no one believes them. That's why you need to lead them," Denzel said. "Me? Led?" "Yes," he said firmly. "They need to see someone who survived Victor and lived to tell the truth. If you speak, others will follow." Evelyn shook her head. "I'm not a leader. I'm barely holding myself together." "You're stronger than you think," Denzel said. Evelyn stopped pacing, her hands curling into fists. For a moment, her eyes blazed with the same fire that had carried her to stardom years ago. "Fine," she said. "If I'm going down, I'm taking Victor with me." By noon, Denzel and Evelyn were seated across from an anchor in a major television studio. The interview would be broadcast live to millions of viewers around the world. The atmosphere in the studio was electric with tension. As the cameras rolled, Evelyn took a deep breath. "5 years ago, I thought telling the truth would set me free, she began. Instead, it destroyed my life. Victor Callahan used his power to silence me, to blacklist me, to erase me from the industry I loved. But I refused to be silent anymore. The anchor leaned forward. Victor Callahan has denied these allegations. He claims you're trying to revive your career through scandal. What do you say to that? Evelyn's jaw tightened. My career doesn't matter anymore. What matters is stopping men like him from hurting anyone else. Denzel spoke next, his voice resonant and unwavering. This isn't just about Evelyn. It's about an entire system that protects predators and punishes the brave. Victor didn't just push Evelyn out, he pushed dozens of women out. And now we're pushing back. As the interview streamed live, social media erupted again. Hashtags like Believe Evelyn and Cancel Victor trended globally. But not everyone was celebrating. At Victor's mansion, a group of his closest allies gathered in his private study. Victor slammed his fist onto the desk, his face twisted in rage. They're turning my name into poison, he growled. Denzel Washington thinks he can play hero? I'll destroy them both. A lawyer spoke up cautiously. Sir, with the video leak and Alex's files, public opinion is shifting rapidly. We may need to consider damage control, perhaps a public apology or settlement. Victor's eyes flashed with fury. There will be no apology, no settlement. I built this empire with my own hands. I'm not letting some washed-up actress and an aging actor burn it to the ground. He picked up his phone and dialed. Get me the studio heads, he barked. We're shutting down every project tied to Denzel. And as for Evelyn Carter, make her regret ever opening her mouth. Back at Denzel's estate, Melissa's phone buzzed again. They're coming for you, Denzel, she warned. Victor's pulling every string he has. Studios are dropping you from projects. Sponsors are pulling out. They're trying to make you toxic. Let them, Denzel said calmly. We'll see how long they can stand the heat. Evelyn looked at him, fear and determination warring in her eyes. They're trying to crush you too now. I've been through worse, Denzel replied. The question is, are you ready for what comes next? Evelyn took a deep breath. I am. Then let's finish this, Denzel said. The courthouse steps were flooded with reporters and flashing cameras, their lenses focused on the small cluster of people gathered at the entrance. Evelyn Carter stood beside Denzel Washington, flanked by their legal team and a handful of supporters holding banners that read, Justice for Evelyn and Break the Silence. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind that seemed to grip everyone present with equal parts hope and dread. Evelyn's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the collar of her coat, but her eyes held a fierce determination. This was the moment she had been preparing for. A public confrontation not just with Victor Callahan, but with the very system that had tried to bury her truth. Denzel leaned in, offering a quiet word of encouragement. You're stronger than you know, he whispered. Remember, you're not alone. The doors behind them opened, and the group began to file inside. The courthouse itself loomed, imposing and austere, a reminder of the many battles fought within its walls. Battles of justice, power, and truth. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Victor Callahan sat at the defendant's table, his usual confident smile replaced by a cold, calculating glare. Around him, his legal team whispered strategies and reassurances, though the weight of the evidence seemed to press heavily on their shoulders. The judge called the court to order, and the proceedings began. Evelyn took the stand, her voice steady as she recounted her experiences, the abuse she suffered, and the attempts to silence her. The courtroom fell silent, save for the occasional note-taking by the stenographer. Denzel sat in the front row, his gaze fixed on Evelyn. Each word she spoke seemed to chip away at the facade Victor had so carefully constructed. When the defense took their turn, they unleashed a barrage of questions aimed at discrediting Evelyn, attacking her past, her character, even her mental health. The tension in the room grew palpable as Evelyn faced the onslaught with unwavering resolve. Outside the courtroom, the media frenzy continued. Live broadcasts captured every moment, and social media buzzed with reactions from viewers worldwide. The climax came when a surprise witness, one of Victor's former employees, stepped forward to testify about the producer's manipulative and abusive behavior. Their testimony corroborated Evelyn's claims and provided tangible evidence of a pattern of misconduct. As the trial drew to a close, the judge acknowledged the strength of the evidence and announced that Victor Callahan would face criminal charges. The courtroom erupted in a mixture of shock and relief. Evelyn exhaled deeply, tears streaming down her face as Denzel embraced her. "This is just the beginning," Denzel said softly. But today, justice took a step forward. Evelyn Carter stepped onto the red carpet, the flashes of cameras blinding yet exhilarating. The crowd buzzed with excitement as fans and critics alike awaited the premiere of Phoenix Rising, the film that marked her triumphant return to Hollywood. Her hand rested gently on her baby bump, a symbol of new life and new beginnings. Denzel Washington walked beside her, his presence steady and reassuring. Together, they faced the swarm of reporters and photographers, their smiles genuine but tinged with the weight of the journey behind them. Inside the Grand Theater, the audience rose to their feet, applauding as the film's opening credits rolled. Evelyn's performance was raw and powerful, a testament to her resilience and talent. Critics would later praise her portrayal as a breathtaking comeback and a voice for the silenced. After the screening, Evelyn took the stage to accept the award for Best Actress. Her speech was heartfelt and poignant. "Thank you for welcoming me back," she began, her voice strong despite the emotions threatening to overwhelm her. "This isn't just my victory. It belongs to every survivor who found the courage to speak their truth, even when the world tried to silence them." She glanced at Denzel, who nodded encouragingly. "I chose truth over fame, and I paid a heavy price," Evelyn continued. "But today, I stand here not as a victim, but as a phoenix risen from the ashes." The crowd erupted in applause, many wiping tears from their eyes. Later, in the quiet of her home, Evelyn cradled her newborn daughter, the room bathed in soft morning light. The magazine spread across the coffee table bore the headline, "The Phoenix Rises, Evelyn Carter's story of courage and redemption." She smiled softly, feeling the weight of the past lift with each breath. Denzel entered the room, sitting beside her and wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," Evelyn replied. Outside, the city moved on, but for Evelyn Carter, the spotlight was no longer a curse. It was a beacon of hope, for herself, for her child, and for every voice that refused to be silenced.